recording. Okay. So last week we were talking about waiting between milk and meat, between meat and milk. Just to recap quickly, the source of it, first of all, the source of the Hannah is the Gemara of Marukha, where Marukha, we talked about his father and his grandparents, about how his father used to wait 24 hours between meat and milk, but he himself only waits between the food and the food. So various question on this say that, well, some say that this is even la halakha, and that's the most natural position that we have is that who would you say that was? The Hag and Rabbeinu Tam. So that's not la halakha. That's going to be now. You can see the young now. Something that needs to be done. First, it says that as long as you finish the meal, okay. Okay. Rambam, Rasta, and Surah hold that it's 6 hours. And Hazar Saridur says it's 1 hour, which the Zohar says is sourced from the Zohar. Okay, Eliezer joined us. Eliezer, you want to turn on the camera? Oh, so no, his sound's not on there. Okay, so he'll do that. Okay. So then we went into reasons, and it comes down to, we don't actually have reasons anywhere in the Gemara. It comes down to the Rishonim, to Rashi and Rambam to find, to speculate as to what the reason is why we have a waiting period between these. Okay, and if you recall, Rambam says it's because of Akaban Sinayim, and Rashi says it's because Moshe's time. It's the taste. It's got a strong taste that if you follow it, it's going to repeat on you, and and you have the taste that you can mix together in the mouth. So we saw that there were several nafkaminas on this. There were several different differences between the Shach of Rashi and Rambam. We're not going to go through all of them now, but the master we actually Kosher to both of them. Now, we also asked the question last week. What about if you have to say that you had a basic meal at the start of time and you fell asleep, and you didn't cross the teeth before you went to bed, so you could even slap the teeth. You wake up in the morning and you feel whatever coming loose and you find a little chunk of meat in between your teeth, and you swallow it and you say, now can I have my morning coffee and cereal? And that can be a problem. Right. Okay. So it's actually the Hanan actually deals with this question over that. And of course, the Hafla is an Achron who's back of the Earth. And he says that from the Ramah, according to Rambam, it's definitely not a problem. So that's clear. But according to Rashi, you get to wait 6 hours. So it seems like you should have to wait. But the fact is that people aren't careful about it. People are saying a little bit. And even though it's only a little bit, you technically should have to wait another. It's like the midnight is not too late. And it would be better. If they were taking down as many, but what's the loss? It doesn't have much taste. There's a very satisfying feeling of saying, yeah, I got that last little bit. But beyond that, it would be better not to swallow it. But if you don't swallow it, you prefer to eat, and you want to have that satisfaction with most afterwards. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. My Zoom suddenly back out there. unfortunately, that it looks like it didn't show the recorder. We're still good to go. Okay. Hi, Donna. Okay. So the next question that we have to deal with is the reverse direction of these afternoon. Okay. And for that, we're going to return to our second hour. So we're in okay. Yeah. Pay is halakha demo. Okay, so there's a Shulchan Aruch. Achal Gavina, somebody ate cheese. No time left for Achras Miyad. You're allowed to eat meat afterwards immediately. ובלבד שיעיין ידיו שלא יהיה שום דבר מהנדבק בהם. You check your hands. Make sure that you don't have any cheese stuck in your hands. Okay. ואם הוא בלילה, and if it's night time, שאלו יכול לעיין אותם היטב, and it's dark and you can't properly check his hands to make sure that there's no milk on his hands. Then he must wash his hands. And that's from the Shulchan Aruch that during the day there's no reason to wash your hands between them. However, he does have to wipe out his mouth and rinse it. To wipe and rinse. Okay, so wipe is with a solid and hadassah is with a liquid. Okay, the kinoach he spells it out. The kinoach is you should chew some bread. Okay, or not just bread, but some other food that will take out the elements of cheese from its mouth. The kanech or piv yafeh. Pain b'chol davar she'yirtzeh, or any other food. Chutz mikimcha v'tamari v'yarka v'fi shehem nidbakin b'panifayim. There are certain foods that are sticky. So you don't try and do this trick with flour. Like I say, I can't find anything else. Let me just stick some flour in my mouth and then shoot it down. So that's going to make things worse. It's going to get stuck in your mouth and it's not really going to clean it off. And the same thing goes with the dates are sticky and won't have a desired effect. Okay. The end metanchin yaseh. Okay, and then they don't steam up. Okay, but afterwards he should rinse his mouth with water, or with wine. The medvarim amorim b'basar behema b'chaya aval lo aval im babel elefo basar of achal gvina eno tzarech lo kibros lo nefila. Interesting. He says that not only basar behema but basar of, but not basar of, basar b'chaya, the venison. Which was interesting because halacha we said that venison is not considered basar midaraisa in terms of basar b'chalab. Okay, so the Machaber of it guys is saying that this is only necessary if you want to have beef or venison after your cheese. If you want to have chicken afterwards, you don't even need to rinse your mouth out. Okay, there's the Ramah. The Yesh Machmirin. We got there are those who ask me on the tafila b'basa after the savina, even with meat after cheese. Okay, it's talking about the whole subject, not just about the quinoa. Okay, and okay, no again, this is our custom. Shekol shehavina kasher ein ochin acharei afilu basar och kamo beguvina achar basar. So if you're dealing with a hard cheese, so this is the Ramah now. You heard about the concept of hard cheeses before, and here's the source of it. The Ramah says that if you're talking about a hard cheese, it's got the same din as milk after meat. So you can milk it and you find a flesh for another salad or whatever you're wasting time. The Yesh Mekilin, the others will leave. The ending first, there's no need to argue with them and rebuke them and tell them they're doing the wrong thing. Okay. Right? שיעשו קינוח והדקה נשיא הידיים. Just be sure to do the wipe and the rinse and washing your hands. So he's more careful about this, and he's saying you need to do this the wife and the rinse story. He will talk about it. Nonetheless, it's better to be machmir on this point. Okay. You know, is wiping with the solid bread, like having a bit of bread or doesn't matter. Eat some bread. It's bread to take the taste and then of the cheese out. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's fair enough. We're talking about now where he wants to. We're back to that. So he talks about the taste of cheese in the mouth. I think time would probably suffice. We no longer taste cheese in the mouth. No longer at the same sitting. Okay. So the shach says, by the way, when talking about the minor sign of the hands, even in the day when it's possible to check your hands, you should still wash your hands. Minor sign. Not all liquids can be used for that. Only that frosty cleans the fat from your hands. All right. The Mishnah Berurah says that if you want to do this, if you're eating an awful meal and you made a mochi, it's not, and now you want to check and clear off everything and start having pleasure. It's not even necessary to bench. Same meal, you can practice the milk, do the kinah, hadaka, bring in, carry on, you can bench at the end. Okay? All accessible according to Mishnah Berurah. Okay. So, halakha l'maaseh over here. So, there are those who have a minhag of waiting an hour between cheese and meat. And again, based on the Zohar, it says that one must wait an hour and doesn't differentiate between milk and meat or meat and milk. That incidentally, I think I'm pretty sure that Chabadnik can keep that. I know this because we had a Ma'aseh Shahaya of a Shavuot morning where some relatives were married by the local Chabad rabbi, and after Tikkun Leil in South Africa, Tikkun Leil in South Africa is a lot longer than here. It's winter. Okay, and they came to him for the Suda in the morning after davening. They came home and they have to have the cheesecake because how can you have Shavuot without cheesecake? And then they had to sit waiting for another hour so they could have the Suda, because of course you've got to have Bach for the Suda. And they were absolutely well, okay, they only did the nail on one night. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get it. So that's the very next point. So hard cheese is that's the remark that we're going to master on. According to this Taz, definition of hard cheese is that it's 6-month-old or wormy cheese. Now, wormy cheese is an interesting subject, which that's a very interesting thing, that it's possible to get kosher wormy cheese. Okay. Oh boy, yeah, okay. And secondly, but the Shach only mentions the 6-month criteria. Okay, that's cheese has been matured for 6 months. Now, that's actually one of the questions that came up, is the question of the hard cheese. Okay. Anyway, so most of today's hard cheeses are not aged, so they don't fit into the category. But there are those who say that the chemicals used to harden it also give it within of 6 months. So the halacha, most of the poskim and Tukhtar is for natural on this. but in Eretz Yisrael there are some poskim who are masmir and some that are makil. So in other words, there are different opinions, and when it comes to any particular case, ask your competent halakhic authority. Yeah, those are also Rabbi. Exactly. I heard that that Parmesan is an example of a hard cheese, but there's some interesting things that come up with the with when the cheese is melted. So for example, if you put Parmesan into your onion ring and melt, it might not have the same din. Right, and that's in the questions of the camp. So halacha is to, as you said, if you wait 6 hours before you even meat. So chances are, the question was asked about pizza. If you have to wait 6 hours for pizza, and well, I mean, your pizza is definitely not making hard cheese, because hard cheese is expensive and they're using cheap cheese under pizza. Sorry. Okay, but in general, even if it were hard cheese, the Dark Silver brings down from the Yavihoda that if it's cooked, it loses the attributes of hard cheese and now is within a soft cheese. So even if you minhag is to wait hours after yellow cheese, you can be makel after eating pizza. Yeah, gourmet, yeah. Look, real pizza is supposed to be mozzarella. And mozzarella is a softer cheese that you can find. Yeah. I mean, there was something like a literary reference to somebody was, in the book I was reading, somebody was insulting somebody else saying I couldn't find a golf ball in the barrel of mozzarella. Okay, but from that, yeah, golf ball traces the path straight to it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's test you with some questions over here. What do you think of the following questions? What happens if you make a some milk, and then you suddenly realize that it hasn't been 6 hours since you ate meat? What do you say? You've already said the bracha. You said the full shakol. You're about to sip, and you say, "Oh, I just had meat 2 hours ago." Okay. Any other takers? Eliezer, are you there?
I'm right here. I can't see me. Sorry. My computer problem. I couldn't get in.
Yeah, I guess.
What do you say?
Eliezer, can you hear?
I can hear. Can you hear me?
You?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you perfectly.
Problem over here.
But we're both stuck.
I
Both.
didn't quite hear the question.
Okay. So
He didn't hear the question.
Not proper.
Let me try to give you the question again. It seems like the Wi-Fi isn't so strong here after all. Okay. So the question is, let's say you have a glass of milk in your hand, you made a bracha shakol, and as you're about to drink, you suddenly realize, oops, I had some meat 2 hours ago. What do you do?
You didn't drink,
You drink?
correct?
Huh?
You did not drink.
You do nothing.
You drank it. You just drank. Okay.
So when you say you put it down, you don't drink it. Okay, so let's break down the problem over here, because it's actually quite a good exercise when you have two conflicting concepts over here. One is bracha levatala, and two is having milk after meat. So now immediately let's compare what's the severity of the two. Okay, what's the severity?
Oh, we lost you. There you are. It's not like rice. It's the correct?
Apparently not.
Can you hear me, Shaw? Can you hear me?
Connect.
Can you hear me,
Yes,
Larry?
perfectly.
Okay, so something on Shoal's end maybe. Shoal, can you hear me? No.
Joel, can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm.
Donna,
Yes,
can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Okay. All right, I got you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So I said that the difference between the 1 hour, 2 hours, and 6 hours is the Rabbanim, correct?
That's good. That's correct. It's a din derabanan. If we're saying that
Right.
that it's
So-
a din from then it's coming from a so that's the din derabanan. Okay, very good. Okay, and what about bracha leva?
Okay, so
Okay, so we haven't learned.
it's also it's a mahag.
Say
It's a
again.
mahag. I'm sorry, it's a mahag between the one and the, it's a minute between the 1 hour, the 2 hours, and the 6 hours.
Right. Okay.
Am I correct?
So let's say okay.
So it's not.
So you're quite right. That then you could actually rely on Tosfot and say, okay, 1 hour is, or the Zohar, and say, okay, 1 hour is sufficient. Or for most of the cases, if it's any length of time, you could basically rely on one of the Rishonim that says you can actually keep less and just have a little system and be done. Okay, and that way you can avoid the question of bracha levatala. But let's say it's like right away you forgot yourself completely. You forgot that you're in the middle of a meal. You saw a cup of milk on the counter and said, let me quickly have a sip of this. And whoops. Okay, so now
What meat did you have? What meat did you have?
So you're asking, was it chicken or was it beef? Good.
Right.
Right. So if it's chicken straight away again, you definitely know what's in the derabanan. Okay.
Right.
So now you basically got the derabanan versus the derabanan. But now according to the and that would be a derabanan on a derabanan because it's waiting after chicken for so it's a double derabanan in that case. Now bracha levatala, we're going to have to give you some information that you didn't have before. So according to Rambam, the bracha levatala is an issur d'oraisa, the Torah prohibition, which means that you've got to do a lot to in order to commit okay. Which means that according to the Rambam, you should just drink a little bit of milk, and rather over a little issur d'orabanan than a big issur d'oraisa. Okay. However, according to Tosfos, Rashba, and Ramban, it's an issur d'orabanan. So now, when you got a d'orabanan versus a d'orabanan, now you have to, now the isurim are equal. Then there's some other principles you got to fall back onto. One of which is shave the al kaseh rather than kum ba'aseh. Now, if you didn't the term shave the al kaseh means sit still, be passive. If you're going to do an avera by being passive, or you're going to do an avera by being active, then it's better to be passive, and rather be over by not doing something than actively do something that's over. So if you have a choice now between actively drinking the milk or passively being over on a bracha levatala, in that case, it's now better not to taste it. So it all depends on whether you hold Rambam or like the other Rishonim about the bracha levatala. So, however, there are this is all talking about in the case where it's like mamish in the same meal. But since there are opinions, as I mentioned before, since there are opinions, even though they're minority opinions that we don't generally follow, that benching on a fleshly meal is enough, and then you're allowed to have milk straight away afterwards. Okay, in that case, you could rely on those opinions and have a little taste of the milk, and that way extricate yourself from both problems.
Don't we have also a bracha that we say if we make a mistake in a bracha, like Baruch Shem Kabbalah Masul, right?
That's an apology more than it's not a heter.
I was trying. Okay.
Couldn't you quickly try to get water, some other beverage, or would that be a hefsek?
Yeah, exactly. When you're making a bracha on something, you have kavana on the that you have a bracha. Unless you have that, when you're saying like you've got the milk over here, you really want to drink the milk, but there's some juice that you are thinking that you wanted to cover immediately afterwards. That's sitting next to it and saying, I just want to have a bit of milk first, and I'll have my orange juice. And then you suddenly realize, whoops, I'm flashing. Then okay, you could probably go with the orange juice because you consciously had that in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's test you on another one. If I ate meat and I don't know if 6 hours passed or not, can I eat milk, or do I have to wait until I'm absolutely sure that 6 hours have passed? What do you say?
You ate meat and you weren't sure what?
So you're not sure. You're coming up. So you want to eat the milk, but you don't remember what time you finished eating flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's possible that if you're in the 6 hours, it's possible that you passed the 6 hours. You're not sure.
So some people, I've heard some people say that if they're in this, I don't hold by that, but some people say that if you're into the fifth hour, going to the sixth, that it would be okay.
Well, that's actually my minhag. I keep 5 hours and into the 6th.
That's because you come from South Africa. That's different.
I don't think that's the Dutch South African. I've met a lot of Americans who also keep the same. I think it's kind of a yeshivish custom.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone have it the other way. It's like, which is the 6 hours because about it. Yeah,
I think you're probably not going to have such a difference. It'll usually be where you're not you're in the last hour or not an hour here and an hour there. You're not entirely sure when you finish eating that. So this is like Shabbos after. You're not really looking at your watch. All you're thinking of is when can I get into my bed. Okay. And then you get up in the afternoon and say, let me have some coffee or let's have some cheesecake or whatever it is that's in the fridge that's taking a fancy. And you say, well, what time did we finish having steak this afternoon? I don't know. What time did we finish eating? We came up with the kiddush at 11, and then we sat and sit for a bit and whatever. So you're doing all these keshwanos. So but no, nobody can tell you for sure, and you want to have this cheesecake. What do you have to do?
The same idea of Shevi Altasa.
Well, so what we have over here is the concept of a davar sheyesh lo material. Something that will certainly become mutter at a later stage. So we don't we tend to be a lot more strict on things that if you just wait for a little bit, it'll certainly be mutter. So it's possible that and there are some poskim that say that this is the case of a davar sheyesh lo material. You just wait until you're certain, and then it'll be mutter. However, there's a posuk here called the Dalsei Tshuva. It says in this case you don't have to wait because it's a faker. One, the first suffix is maybe you've already waited your 6 hours. The second suffix is that maybe the halacha is that you don't even have to wait 6 hours. Maybe the halacha is like the poskim that say that it's less. In which case, with the double suffix, when you have a faker on a din, especially on a rabbanan, you're good to go. You're good to go. So there are those who don't permit us to take by davar sheyesh. I think that the issue here is the time, and the time is not going to come back. So it's basically he's makil on this one. So there is room to be makil in this particular situation, and if it's a really good cheesecake, then I'm sure. Davar aved, the rest of the family is all piling into it. I want to see. Davar aved, yeah, you might do this. Okay, this should be an easy one for you. If I ate meat and I'm still within the 6 hour time period, Can I sit with my friends in the pizza parlor while they eat their pizza? Yeah, self-control. Are you allowed to sit in the pizza?
Why not?
while-
Why
Yeah.
not? You're not eating anything with them. Why shouldn't you be able to sit there?
Yeah, that would actually be my instinctive response as well.
They could forgive you. Wife that goes, well, remember the holiday we said eating place with friends.
Right.
Have some kind of pecker.
So
If we're afraid that here will be sitting mom and dad.
okay, very good. So there is actually the prima garden brings the base alcohol that stands after, but apparently this issue didn't take hold much. He doesn't see people being careful because it's a gezerah, the gezerah. You're already talking about a rabbanan making gezerah that somebody shouldn't come to do something which is already it's too far removed. So once again, we're not going to. Okay, so what about are you allowed to smell the pizza? It's such a nice smell.
You're getting a hana from the pizza, and you're not finished with your 6 hours. That's what you're saying.
You're so basically. You just had a meat sandwich like half an hour before you went to your friends to the pizzeria. Okay. So now, are you allowed to smell the pizza?
What do you try that? Can't eat it?
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe,
So the Bada Shulchan says about this, and there's a halacha that food which is forbidden to eat is also forbidden to smell, neither abanan, because you might come to eat it. So based on that, you probably shouldn't sit with your friends, with the smell. However, the Bada Shulchan also says that smelling Isser can immediately bring about eating Isser, so it's strict. But waiting hours is a gezerah far removed from Isser derived from cooking meat and milk together. So when they say that you're not allowed to smell Isser, that's talking about like sitting sitting with your goyish friend and he's got his yummy meat pie over there, his straight meat pie, and like okay, if you can't avoid it, what are you gonna do? But you can't say, let me smell that. That you can't do. That's because there it's one step removed from forgetting yourself and just having a taste.
It almost sounds. I don't know how you're going to take this, but it almost sounds like a yichud question, a problem.
Okay.
Like yichud, being in yichud.
Being in yichud with the yisur. Oh, you're having a nice smell of the meat. Okay. All right. But when it comes to again, when you're talking about the pizza, eating the pizza afterwards is already like very far removed from the Isra of Basa B'Challah. So,
Right.
okay, so you smell the pizza. And if you suddenly overcome with this terrible urge to grab a handful of things and eat it, what happens is that you're over on what most of the Rishonim say you shouldn't do, but there's still other thoughts in it, so that you're a meal and it would be mutter anyway. So it's not something that we need to be machmir on. Okay, that's another interesting one. What about if you have two people ate a fleshik meal and one person ate a milchik meal, can they make a zimun together? Nice questions here.
Why not?
They ate together. They made all the things that we learned. They made chopsticks on the table and they fleshik on one side and milchik on the other side. So two people had fleshik, one person had milchik, and now they want to make a zimun. Are they allowed to?
Why not? They all washed. What's the problem?
So they all and also they also joined together. They made up their eating together. Yeah. Right. That should be good.
Right, and because and the bread itself is impacting over here. The bread itself is the ikar of the meal. Okay. If they'd all just sitting and eating bread, they would have been able to do the zimun together. The meat and the cheese didn't enter into it. They just covered into the bread. So the bread
seems to all the same.
They're all from as far as the bread is concerned, they're all equal. Okay. So they considered one sitting. That's the question about the benching. Is that are they considered one sitting? Is it one group of people who ate together? Meat and milk. You say, oh, you can't have meat and milk. If you're eating meat and milk, you have to have all these separations on the table and whatever. But separate. But the bread and the meat and the cheese are tougher. The bread is the ikar. That's what joins them together for the Suda, and therefore they can make it together.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's that question that you asked about flushing your teeth in the morning.
Okay, here's a very practical one. Do I have to wait 6 hours if I taste chicken soup but I don't eat any? Just the broth, not the actual chicken itself. So you got a flavorful chicken soup broth, and you taste it, right?
But you haven't swallowed it.
It's just like a little bit in your mouth. You taste it to see how it tastes.
And you haven't swallowed it.
And you haven't, and you don't eat it. You don't eat it. You just taste it. And let's say you want to avoid being fleishy, so you go and very fortunately sit down in the base somewhere.
So I think it should be okay because when you make that bracha, until you swallow it, the bracha really doesn't take effect.
Not the bracha. We're not asking about the bracha. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that's correct. We're not asking about a bracha. As Yaakov points out, you probably don't even need to make a bracha.
Right. So it shouldn't be any problem as long as you wash your mouth out. Maybe wash your mouth out with some water or something.
Whenever we ask this question, we got to look at the two reasons. Rambam, because Bnei Shinayim. Do you have Basar Bnei Shinayim? No. Rashi, because Moshe Katan. Is it going to repeat something? Is it going to be a taste that's going to stick with you and come up and taste again? No, you didn't swallow it. Both reasons are removed. You don't taste it down.
And what if he did swallow it?
So if he swallows it, then he's got Rashi's reason to worry about, because now he's got there's taste of them that's gone into his gullet. The fattiness of it sticks around, and we don't make a distinction between how much it was. It doesn't matter if you ate just a little piece or if you ate a whole chicken. The whole thing is there's no distinction made in halacha between two cases, and you would be fleishy if you did swallow, yeah.
But it has to be a shear.
Even though it's just broth, there's no chicken there that you tasted. Just tasted the broth.
Because you've got a strong fleishy taste inside the broth. That broth is going to make you fleishy, correct? Mm-hmm. Although we will see in the next we didn't actually even get to it. I prepared like the next year, but there was a lot more to flesh out over here on this subject, so we didn't quite get into it. But the Shulchan Aruch also makes a distinction between eating meat itself or eating a tavshil, some sort of composite food that's got meat in it. So the classic case would be cholent. You've got meat in your cholent, you've got meat in gravy in the cholent, but let's say you ate a potato from the cholent or an egg from the cholent, something like that. It's got a very strong taste of meat in it, but it doesn't have any actual meat. You're not eating like right. You're not eating the flesh itself, but it's absorbed into there. So that's going to be our next subject, which we've got a couple of minutes here, which I'll break into it now, and we can do whet your appetite a bit. Okay. He says in Tis Gimel, Achol Tav Shil Shofar. If you ate a dish, a fleshy dish, you will eat afterwards immediately a malted dish, not the malt itself, but for example, according to this, you ate a potato from the cholent, you'd be allowed to have your coffee with malt afterwards. So it's called the tavshil. It's not milk itself, it's the tavshil that's got the milky taste. Okay, so that's a huge unity in the Shulchan Aruch over here. We're going to see we're not hold this down after, but this is what the Shulchan Aruch is saying over here. And washing your hands between, it's a nice thing to do, but you don't have to. Okay, so Ramah interjects there. Oh, but yesh matzrichin netila. Hello, some of us do require netila, but in fact, is the Ramah not going to argue on the point that the Shulchan Aruch? Okay. Aval, the Shulchan Aruch carries on. Aval in bale echol yina asma achar tavshil achar shosel basar or basar asma. So if he can eat the actual cheese, the pure milk food after the Tavshil Gavina, or the meat itself after the Tavshil Gavina, Chova Litol Yadav. Then he to wash his hands. He definitely has to wash his hands. Whoa. Amazing. Take a back a second. The Shulchan Aruch over here is being pretty lenient. You hear this. He's saying that if you're not eating the meat itself, but you're eating a tavshil that's got a taste of meat. So to the question about the chicken soup that we were talking about earlier, sounds like the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, the chicken soup is mostly water and water with the chicken flavor. Although water may be a different thing. Water doesn't have its own taste, so you could just taste your chicken flavor. But let's say it's a vegetable soup. It's a vegetable soup with chickens as well. So then, and if you just eat if you take out the chicken pieces and just have the vegetable soup and whatever, that would apparently fall under this under what the Shulchan Aruch is saying over here. Okay. The Ramah. We have a Shuman Shalbasa, dinner to Basar Asmon. First of all, you want to be clear that meat fat has got exactly the same din as meat itself. Okay. The Nargu Akshav Lahachmir Shilole Chogvina Achat Tavshil Basar is that we are not to have cheese after meaty dishes. Okay, after your chal and potato. More Akshav Basar Asmor. Just the same as if you'd eat the meat itself. Okay, so here the Ramah diverges from the Shulchan Aruch. We don't treat it any differently. If you ate the chal and potatoes or you ate the chal and meat, it's the same. Ain't lishana ulifros together. By the way, and you're not allowed to change that and break down the ulifros together. By the way, that is a key word. That's a little trigger word over here. When you see ulifros together, he's telling you what level of Isra. Koret Yeder is somebody who violates minhag. Okay. You have that when you hear the magic word Koret Yeder, he's telling you not to violate the minhag, which means it's not a deraisa, it's not a derabanan, it's a minhag. Minhag is still, we still hold halacha that we keep minhagim. But he's telling you there what the level of Isra is. And of course, why do you need to know? I mean, you can be bitten by a deraisa snake, you can be bitten by a derabanan snake, you can be bitten by a minhag snake, and they're all being bitten by the snake. I'd rather do it. However, when there are conflicts, like we saw, when you have a conflict between you made a bracha, will it be a bracha levatala, or are you going to violate the minhag? So now you can see, which is more important. And if you've got a question of the din derabanan versus the minhag, the din derabanan comes. Yes, that's when all is equal. But if there's a minhag, yeah, right. So you could conjure up a case where you have a certain minhag, but being strict about your minhag is going to cause somebody to be embarrassed. You can conjure up lots of cases like that. So you're going to be masked on your minhag and embarrass somebody. You've lost the plot. Okay. Anything else with the answers before we go to end? Okay. So I'll tell you what. We'll call it off over here, and we'll resume again back from this Gimel in the Shulchan Aruch next time. Any further questions before we shut off?
I think people should stick to the cheesecake. It's safer.
Okay. We had you at the cheesecake. Okay, got it.
Okay, I'll see you in the morning. Have a good night. Thank you. Yashikach.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Night, everybody. See you all next week.
Bye.